Welcome everybody. Members of the public are advised that the meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and the live stream recording will be made publicly available on YouTube and Council's website. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people as the traditional owners of the country on which Nillumbik is located. We value the significance of the Wurundjeri people's history as essential to the unique character of the Shire. We pay tribute to all First Nations people living in Nillumbik, give respect to elders past, present and future, and extend that respect to all First Nations people. We respect the enduring strength of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and acknowledge the ongoing impacts of past trauma and injustices from colonial invasion, massacres and genocide committed against First Nations people. We acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people hold a deep and ongoing connection to this place. We value the distinctive place of our First Nations people in both Nillumbik and Australia's identity, from their cultural heritage and care of the land and waterways to their ongoing contributions in many fields, including academia, agriculture, art, economics, law, sport and politics. And I will now hand over to Councillor Duffy to read out the Good Governance Pledge.
Thank you, Mayor. As councillors, we are mindful of our civic responsibilities and our obligations. We pledge to take them seriously and to carry them out with diligence and integrity. We know the decisions we take will affect the people and environment of Nillumbik now and in the future. We undertake, therefore, to make sound and principled decisions of lasting value in a spirit of fairness and for the good of all. We also pledge to serve the needs and well-being of the community and the environment in an open and honest manner and to the best of our abilities.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. We did have Pastor Mel Abrasaldo from Joy of Life Christian Ministries booked to read a prayer, but unfortunately he is an apology, and so we will move on. There are no apologies tonight. The next item is declarations of conflicts of interest. I have a conflict of interest in relation to the Boyd Street North Warrandyte Special Charge Scheme. So when that item comes up, I will vacate the chair and allow Councillor Egan as the Deputy Mayor to chair the meeting while I leave the room for the duration of that item. Councillors, are there any other conflicts of interest tonight? No other conflicts of interest. We have no presentations, and so I'll move on to the confirmation of minutes. And I will look for a motion.
Happy to move the motion. The Council confirms the minutes of the Council meeting held on Tuesday, 30th of April 2024 as per Attachment 1.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Eyre. Councillor Payne? Councillor Eyre? Any other councillors? Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. We have no petitions, but we do have a couple of questions from the gallery. And they are as follows. We have a question from Mike Englefield. And the question is, will Council provide the club with rent-free occupancy of the Eltham Community and Reception Centre from 2025 onwards to enable to continue conducting the previously successful Eltham Art Show? And the response is, Council recognises and appreciates the dedication and efforts of the Rotary Club of Eltham. Council makes a significant investment and contribution to the management of community venues. It encourages use of these venues by a broad range of community groups, organisations and individual hirers on the basis that they meet the needs within the community and or assist Council to achieve its community service, development and objectives. It's important for Council that its hire practices for community managed facilities are managed consistently, fairly, equitably and transparently. As a community group, the club will be eligible for a discounted rate similar to that for other community groups. And that is the answer to Mike Englefield. The next question is from Nina Gillespie, and there are two questions. The first question is, this question pertains to compliance and liability concerns, the Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities Act 2006, the Public Administration Act 2006, the Public Administration Act 2004 and the Local Government Act 2020, which require public authorities and their agents to act in a manner compatible with human rights. Israel is ignoring the recent ICJ court order to halt its military operations in Rafah The death toll has surpassed 35,000 Palestinians, with tens of thousands under the rubble and mass starvation being inflicted upon the population. Council needs to ensure that the current procurement policy adequately protects council members, the CEO and ratepayers from being complicit in human rights abuses, specifically genocide. Notably, BDS Australia lists companies such as Hewlett-Packard and Siemens as being complicit in genocide. Additionally, Cisco, Honeywell and Caterpillar are also tied to human rights abuses in Palestine. It is possible that Council may have contracts with these companies. The second question is, in light of the concerns highlighted in question 1, particularly with potential suppliers like Hewlett-Packard, Siemens and Caterpillar, would Council consider receiving a report from APAN, the Australian Palestine Advocacy Network, to undertake a thorough review of the existing suppliers and procurement policies to ensure that they are in full compliance with international human rights standards and therefore protect all associated parties from potential complicity in crimes as severe as genocide? There's a combined response here to both of those questions. Council has established a collective procurement policy that adheres to the principles of fairness, transparency and value for money. This policy complies with the requirements relating to procurement under sections 108 and 109 of the Local Government Act 2020 and includes rigorous criteria for evaluating potential suppliers encompassing local, social and economic factors as well as environmental considerations. The Act mandates transparency, accountability and local sustainability in procurement, requiring councils to adopt policies aligned with these principles. Council's policy includes compliance checks with Australian laws, which are linked to some aspects of international human rights standards. For instance, suppliers are required to adhere to ethical sourcing practices and demonstrate corporate social responsibility, including Australian federal or state legislated requirements such as the Modern Slavery Act 2018, Fair Work Act 2009, and Child Wellbeing and Safety Act 2005. And that is the answer to both of those questions. Which moves us on to reports of advisory committees. And I will look for a motion. Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mayor. The Council notes the minutes of the Advisory Committee meetings reported in Attachment 1.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. I will look for a seconder. Councillor Duffy. Councillor Eyre.
Thank you. Apart from saying thank you to all our community members who are on our advisory committees, I just wanted to mention that the PAC, which is the Positive Ageing Advisory Committee, had another productive meeting with presentations or updates on the integrated transport strategy and the housing strategy, which is really relevant to where the PAC is going. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Councillor Duffy.
Yes, thank you. I would also like to acknowledge the Economic Development Advisory Committee in the work that they've done. The committee has just come to a close with the members who have been on the advisory committee for the last 2 years. And so it was lovely to have a meeting with them recently where Council was able to acknowledge their participation. And I won't go through everybody by name, but I'd just like to say thank you to them all for the work that they've done in helping to shape the economic development of our Shire. And there is an invitation that's extended to the community to have people put their hand up to be involved in the next advisory committee. The applications for the next Economic Advisory Committee close just before midnight on Sunday, the 2nd of June. So we'd love to hear from people that are interested in helping to work with Council in this way. So I'd just like to say thank you again to all of the people on all of our committees for the work that they do in helping us make our decisions.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. The next item is the draft Wattle Glen Public Realm Framework for Exhibition, and I will look for a motion.
Yes.
Councillor Egan.
Thank you. Yes, I'll move the motion. First of all, one, that Council endorses the draft Wattle Glen Public Realm Framework, Attachment 1, for exhibition for 3 weeks during May-June 2024, and 2, considers community feedback to the exhibition of the draft Wattle Glen Public Realm Framework at the Planning and Consultation Committee meeting to be held on the 16th of July 2024. Excuse me.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Perkins. Councillor Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, council endorsement is being sought to exhibit a draft public realm framework for Wattle Glen. This has been going on since my first term in council. This directly addresses the community's concerns about safety and the connectivity of Wattle Glen and its sense of place, as discussed in the project's first round of engagement back in 2021. The arterial roads are directly implicated in the community's concerns and are key to unlocking the potential of Wattle Glen as a safe and connected place. We've so many safety issues with road crossings, getting to the station, linkages with the trails, and all in an area with the oldest residents who are living in the Shire. We have school crossing issues, etc., and the list goes on. It's formally been supported in principle by DTP to proceed to public exhibition and community consultation as from tomorrow. Their support, DTP's, for the draft framework will assist ongoing collaboration with VicTrack regarding key initiatives concerning rail, land and assets. Together, these arterial road and rail initiatives will serve as catalysts for broader public improvements in Wattle Glen. These roads and railway are managed by DPT and VicTrack, not council. It is not council who are delaying the project or dragging their feet at all. It's DTP and VicTrack going through their processes. The level of detail in the draft framework is an express precondition of DTP's endorsement for this particular framework. It will focus on assessing the community's general support for the initiatives and what the community's priorities are. Subject to tonight's vote, exhibition of the draft framework is planned for 3 weeks as from tomorrow. And I know there's some concerns over this short period, but this will enable it to be endorsed by council before we go into caretaker period. Otherwise, any longer than 3 weeks for consultation will mean this item won't be passed until next year, which will mean more delays. This level, second level of consultation is very diagrammatic and very high level, and we can't go out with anything more detailed as DTP simply won't allow it. They've only given principal support of this level of the plan, nothing more detailed. In other words, unless we approve this in the manner which DTP have requested, this framework won't go any further. And I'm sure this won't be the last round of consultation that we go through. We can then get further designs done and advocate for more detailed designs for the project. And of course, all the projects that stem from this consultation will all have their own rounds of consultation, so this won't be the last by a long shot. So there's still a long road ahead in this project, and of course money will come into it. And as we know, nobody has any money at the moment in the state government or council, but we're still doing the best we can, and it'll come down to project by project. So I'm totally in support of this particular project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Councillor Perkins.
Thank you. Yes, I think Councillor Egan summed it up all very well. Just reinforcing, look, I did get a phone call or a message from a Wattle Glen resident, member of the Wattle Glen Residents Association, Sandra Rowe, on the weekend, and I'm sorry I didn't get back to you, but I did get some information around the consultation period. It mirrors the advice that Councillor Egan has given us, that if we extended the consultation period beyond the 3 weeks in the motion, it would mean that it couldn't get back to this council before the caretaker period, and the draft Wattle Glen Public Realm Framework would not be adopted by this council. It's an important part of what this council wants to do. It's in the council plan. I think we're all very keen, or most of us anyway, or hopefully a majority, are very keen to adopt this public realm framework for exhibition for the 3 weeks, and hopefully have it endorsed before this council term concludes. So thank you. Happy to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. Any other councillors? Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to be brief, I will support the motion as well. I agree with what the Councillor Egan and Councillor Perkins have said. For the community, 3 weeks, some people are saying is not enough, But, I think everybody here has certainly heard what Councillor Egan and Councillor Perkins have said in that we want to get this done, and in order to do that we need to have an express period, seeing as this is the second round of community consultation. What I would encourage the community to do is to get out there and tell everybody to put their words in to this submission so that we can make sure that it's fully representative of what people want. And there has been some feedback noted about people being ensuring that council recognises that Wattle Glen is a township. So that's something that we'll be taking on board, looking at the word settlement versus township. It is somewhere where people live, and we've taken that on board tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Stockman?
Thanks, Mayor. First of all, I think this is a good thing for the good people of Wattle Glen, but I'm just a little bit worried about the detailed designs, that it's not transparent. And I just look at point 14, which says as funding opportunities are secured for the delivery of arterial roads and railway improvements, detailed design proposals will be shared with the community for feedback prior to implementation, as will detailed designs for related public realm improvements on council land and council can fund and program for delivery. So just what sort of resources were put into those detailed designs, I just don't really understand that fully, but I will support this. The other part too on point 17, there's a part where it says linking the Green Wedge Trail to the Diamond Creek Trail through Wattle Glen via Wattle Glen Station. We've just endorsed the Northern Regional Trail Strategy, and we've got the Aqueduct Trail Stage 1 as number 1 on the list, so I just want to make sure that that's still they're given the highest attention, of course, that's all.
Thank you, Councillor Stockman. Any other councillors? Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mayor. I support everything that's been said so far by the other councillors. The only difference that I'll add to is that I understand that there'll be 2 bookable stakeholder workshops at the local Wattle Glen Primary School for residents. I encourage anyone who wants to give feedback to attend those, and that way you can talk in person and be heard that way, and agree around the 3 weeks. I think to see it endorsed now is much better than having it drag out again, as it's already been on the go for many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillors? Look, I'll speak to this one as well. I unfortunately feel quite uncomfortable with what's proposed, and I don't think I'll be able to support the motion. I really do think it's important to take time to get these things right. We're in a situation here where we have to work with the Department of Transport and Planning, and while it's important to maintain a good working relationship with them, what they've asked us to do is to go out to consultation with a very, very high-level plan here, which doesn't give away all the information and all the detail. I've certainly seen a lot more detail than what's in the attachment, which I obviously can't share because it's confidential, but I think were the community to see that, they'd have a lot to say, and I think in the interest of transparency, it's really important that that detail be shared in some way, and I think I would rather go back to the drawing board and figure out how we can share more detail with the community, even if it delays this to another council term. And while many of us may not be here in the next council term, there'll still be a council still doing good work for the community, we hope. And I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference which council endorses this. I think it's more important that we get it right and that we can run community consultation where the community have all the information and actually have something they can comment on. I've also heard input from community members that 3 weeks is not long enough. And I would be minded to agree, except that when I look at the attachment, I really don't know what I'd comment on it, because I don't think there's enough information to comment on. And so I think that's probably the primary issue to be resolved here, and the actual length of the consultation would be secondary to that. Although I do tend to agree that for something this important, it would be good to have a longer consultation period. So I just thought I'd explain why I'm not comfortable with this motion. And with that, I believe I will throw back to Councillor Egan for a right of reply.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I completely understand where you're coming from. The problem is it's a case of the chicken and the egg. Unless we have this 3 weeks of consultation to get through to the next stage, this isn't going to be the last round of consultation in any way, shape or form. Every single project that comes from this will have its own round of 1 or 2 rounds of consultation, whether it's a crossing, a trail join up from the trail, whatever the issue is. And we can't provide any more detail because otherwise the whole project will come to a grinding halt. I'm not prepared to do that. It's already gone through nearly 2 councils, and I don't want it, going through a 3rd or a 4th. So the sooner we can get to the next stage, then we can actually start drilling down into the detail for the particular projects and get perhaps a priority list. Yes, we still won't have the detail, but we'll have some basic ideas about what the actual items are, whether it is a crossing, whether it's traffic lights, whether it's zebra crossings, whatever. So I have to support this because I'm not prepared to let it go another year or 2. The people of Wattle Glen deserve better, and they deserve it in their lifetime, not their children's or grandchildren's. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? And those against? And that is carried. The next item is the adoption of the visual and public art policies, and I will look for a motion. Councillor Payne.
Happy to move the motion as per the papers, Mayor Adrian.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Egan. Councillor Payne.
Yes, this is basically an update to our visual and public arts policies. It takes into account new processes, and it pools the 1% arts contribution to large capital works projects, which will enable our arts team to produce larger and more impactful art outcomes in Nillumbik. So this is a brand new policy. It's updated, and hopefully it will produce great art for the Shire.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Egan.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Payne's covered it off pretty well. Anything that increases contributions towards arts in Nillumbik has my vote every single time. I've wanted this since my first term on council, increases in this area, so I'm more than happy to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Any other councillors? Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I agree that this is a great policy. I'm very happy to have come into a council that had this policy in place. So for the community, one of the things that's important to me is that at community assets, we're able to have art, particularly for the new capital works projects. So when there's a project that's worth more than $2 million, 1% of that cost budget allocated is to go into public art, and we can see the benefit of that with the beautiful artwork that's down at the Diamond Valley Sports and Fitness Centre, and there is artwork that's going into the Diamond Hills Preschool that's coming up. My concern with the pooling of money means that there could be projects in the future that don't get art. I've been assured that that is going to be managed well by our officers so that they can manage budgets to ensure that most, hopefully all, council assets that are of a $2 million threshold do receive art appropriately. So I will be supporting the policy, but I'm just flagging my concern and hoping that operationally we can make sure that all of the assets that fit the criteria receive some wonderful public art.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillors? Councillor Perkins.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with the councillors that already spoken. Councillor Duffy alerted me to that change in terms of the 1% contribution to capital works exceeding $2 million is not necessarily going to be spent on that individual building or capital work. As explained by officers that, 1% of $2 million is $20,000, and if it was a $2 million capital works project, $20,000 doesn't go very far in the public art frame or the public art space. So the ability to pool that money and come up with a more substantial public art work, hopefully around about the same location, but certainly within the Shire, does seem to make sense if managed well, and I support particularly Councillor Duffy's comments on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. The next item is the Environment and Sustainability Advisory Committee membership recommendation for 2024 to 2026, and I will look for a motion. Councillor Payne.
Happy to move the motion as per the papers, Mayor Rabduran.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Eyre, Councillor Payne.
So the report is the recommendation for membership of the new Environment and Sustainability Advisory Committee. The label says it all. These are volunteers who care about our environment and our sustainability in the Green Wedge. And we've got a wonderful set of volunteers, and we are welcoming some new members as well. And we've also got a great set of environmental officers who both go above and beyond. So we have had robust debate and open disagreement at ESAC meetings, but the common goal has always been agreed that we want to make the best of the Shire and its natural resources, and I look forward to the new team joining the committee. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Eyre.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Only to say that we all love Nillumbik and our environment and our Green Wedge, and as such, the Environment Sustainability Advisory Committee advises Council on different initiatives and programs and on issues. So it's really important that we have this this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillors? I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously, and I believe Councillor Payne will read out the successful applicants.
Yes, indeed. I would like to welcome the successful applicants as follows: Elnaz Edahad, Linley Tozer, Sue Rosenhain, Lucinda Flynn, Andrew McMahon, Lily Van Eden, Vasundhara Gandpal, Graham Lang, Malcolm Cock, Anne-Marie King and Katrina Naish. Thank you very much for being part of this committee.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. The next item is the committee report consideration of submissions for the draft budget 2024 to 2025, and I will look for a motion. Councillor Duffy.
I'm happy to move that. So I'd like to recommend that Council notes that 7 written submissions in relation to the draft budget 2024-2025 were received, and that these submissions were considered and submitters were provided with the opportunity to be heard by the Planning and Consultation Committee on the 16th of April. And secondly, that Council considers the matters contained in the submissions and the committee's report during the finalisation of the budget for 24-25.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Egan. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. Just briefly, putting community at the heart of Council has been my mission as a councillor. So Council is here to serve the community now and into the future. So ensuring that the community is involved in helping us shape how Council spends funds is fundamental. I'd like to see in the future we involve the community much earlier in the development process rather than towards the end. So for this 2024-25 budget, for the money to be spent after the 1st of July, yes, we heard that there were 28 days that were offered to the community to provide feedback, and we did have the 7 written submissions, and I note that there was a question earlier in the meeting today, which one of those submitters was from the Rotary Club of Eltham. There were 6 people who attended at the planning and consultation meeting in April to speak their views. Their names are listed in the summary report that goes with this report. And just from my recollection, I remember the Eltham Men's Shed were asking Council to consider assisting them with works to fix their kitchen. The Eltham Junior Football Club sought for Council to help provide coaching boxes as a priority for the games played by girls and boys at Eltham High School's Oval. I remember Mary spoke on behalf of residents in her neighbourhood at Diamond Creek, requesting Council to provide features of a much sought after playground that has been requested for many decades, something that might include a half basketball court, some seating and a fence around the reserve. And this was something that I remember because it was one of the reserves that Council saved from being sold at the last Council term. So people are very keen to see something happen with that. John from the Eltham Football Club, I remember him thanking council for the strong working relationship that's been built over time, and he expressed his gratitude about the recent installation of barrier nets that have been installed behind the goals to stop errant balls hitting pedestrians and cars. So John raised a further request for council to install a permanent barbecue adjacent to the kitchen walkway that could be used by the footy club, the cricket club and U3A. And finally, at the PCC meeting, we heard from Rebecca, and she expressed a request for council to construct a new pedestrian crossing over Withers Way near the intersection with Susan Street to provide to provide an additional crossing supervisor to help manage the pedestrian and vehicle traffic for the school's 1,400 students when they're walking to and from school. So we did hear those considerations. They were factored into the budget, and officers will work wherever they can to be able to spend money wisely for the community and council. We can't deliver on everything that people are wanting all the time. I hope that there will be ways that things can find their way into happening, but I'm unable to say tonight that these things will be funded for in the next council budget. But there will be opportunity for the community to continue to approach council at any time with the things that you would like to see council spending money on. So with that, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody that put their feedback in to the budget process. It is really important to hear from the community, and by hearing from the community, it helps us shape what we do, knowing that further in the meeting we'll be discussing the budget, and there are complexities with how much money we have and how we're able to spend it, and the things that we have to spend rather than the things that we would like to spend money on. So with that, I'd just like to say I recommend this motion and hope that everybody will support it. It's a nice, easy one.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Egan? Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. The next item is the adoption of the budget 2024 to 2025, declaration of rates and charges and council plan annual action plan for 2024 to 2025. And I will look for a motion.
Happy to
Councillor Payne.
move the motion as per the significant papers, Mayor Ramcharan. With a change. Oh yes, there is a slight change. A modest change. So this is in item number 1. There has been an amendment, so it says to adopt as presented the 2024-2025 budget as per attachment 1 with the following amendment. A, amending the stormwater drainage connection fees on page 63 of the 2024-2025 budget, amendment 1 to read, and in the bracket under adopted fee inclusive 2023-24, $95.40 as a monetary fee unit. And below that, the connection requiring road opening per site is $373.70, also a monetary fee unit.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. And the rest as per the papers?
The rest as per the papers.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. I'll look for a seconder. We do need a seconder. Councillor Egan. Councillor Payne.
Well, the slight drama you've just witnessed, ladies and gentlemen, is apparently people are afraid to touch the budget or to move the budget, this in an election year. I don't know whether that's because people see it as contentious. We've been given advice from councillors here that we should avoid contentious things in election year. I think it's a simple, responsible demonstration that we are looking after the limited resources we have here. And surprisingly, rates are 4th on the list of resident feedback as an issue. It's fourth on the list of 5, so it's not the top at all. So yes, I'm happy to move the papers and thank the council officers who have once again returned a responsible budget.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Egan?
I love a bit of contention. Thank you, Councillor Payne. You put it very, very well. What I don't love is paying my rates, and unfortunately this year the rural area is going to get hit very hard, as the suburb where I happen to live, I think, is going up rather dramatically, as is Kangaroo Ground and the Bend of Isles. But without our rates, we can't do what we do. And yes, I know everybody complains that we don't spend enough money, and we haven't got enough money to spend where they want us to spend it. Again, it's the chicken or the egg scenario. Unfortunately, we're controlled by the government in terms of the rate cap. Now, the rate cap this year is 2.5%, I think, from memory, is that right? That doesn't even cover CPI, much less inflation, so we're going backwards. So although in monetary terms rates will go up in the rural areas and the urban rates will go down, Diamond Creek residents will be very happy again, thanks to their wonderful councillor, Peter Perkins. But unfortunately, in the rural area, everybody since COVID wants to move there, so the prices have risen. It's the same pie, it's just been cut a different way. And unfortunately, although our rates are going to go up in the rural area, it does mean that your property value has increased. But again, we are still going backwards. The government is taking more and more of your rates. The fire levies increased something like 60%. Our waste, don't get me started on the waste, that's going through the roof. This is all money, and look at your rate notices very carefully because you will see which ones are government charges, I hope, and there is going to be a little bit of comms and communications from council regarding how our rates are determined. So watch out for that because it's not an easy thing to understand, but you need to understand that it isn't just the council spending all your rates money. A lot of it goes back to the state government. What concerns me are also councillors who may not approve the budget for election issues. Yes, nobody wants to vote for the budget, but we have to, otherwise council will come to a grinding halt. But to use that in an election to simply say you didn't vote for the rate cap is pretty appalling in my mind, if anybody was to think of doing that. I think that's about all, but unfortunately there are two things that are certain in life, death and taxes. And this is one of those, we can't get out of it. And unfortunately, because we live in a green wedge area, we don't have a big enough rate base to increase our rates, and we're constrained by the green wedge. We don't have enough help in managing the green wedge, but that's where a lot of our money goes. We need assistance.
Wrap up there, Councillor Egan.
Yes, I was just trying to explain that we are a little bit different. We all know we're special in the Olympic, but that is why. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Any other councillors? Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I'm happy to speak to the rates. I'm a little bit like Councillor Egan. I don't like paying my rates at times. Sometimes there are times where I'm thinking, why are we spending money on this? And then I check myself and think this is for the greater good. As councillors, we've been elected and entrusted by the community to do a job which is often difficult. We're asked to make decisions in the best interests of the whole municipality, and that is for decisions for today and decisions for tomorrow. So there have been past councils that haven't put up the rates. Maybe that was politically convenient for them. Unfortunately, we can't do that. We do have to put the rates up to be able to be able to pay some of the bills that are coming through. All the costs have gone up. We all know that with our groceries, our electricity and our household items. So at council, it's no different. The thing that we are able to do is look at our priorities and look at where are we spending and how are we spending. The officers have put a lot of work together in putting together this budget, and there is just under $80 million worth of money that's due to be collected from rates and charges. There will be small amounts of money that will come through from the state and federal government, not what we've seen in the past, but I'm comfortable that we will receive money to assist us. There's $16 million worth of capital works programmed. I am very happy that at long last the Eltham North car park near the Redbacks soccer club is going to be expanded. People have been complaining for quite a long time about the cars that are parking all over the nature strip. The people involved in the soccer club have been disappointed that the car park expansion hasn't happened sooner. So I have had assurance from officers that that is happening this year, and also the car park at the Adventure Playground. But this is not about car parks, it's not about footpaths, it's about having trust that council is really in earnest trying to make sure money is spent in the right way. So as a councillor, I'm happy to endorse the budget. There are a lot of things in it that are not, I'm not I would much prefer to see. Like I would, there are many projects that I would like to see delivered that are not actually on the list, that are on my list and on the residents that have voted for me. But I understand the greater good, and there are other priorities that are ahead of those. I do hope that there is ways of working forward and working with the community so that the community can have more say at an earlier stage in delivering their feedback into shaping the budget in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillors? Councillor Stockman.
Yeah, I actually will support the budget because I know a budget does have to be put in. But I did try and bring up the fact that we have increased the rates by the highest amount that we can in the last 4 years, which totals 9.5% in total, which the state government sets the cap, and we certainly do go the highest, but we don't really look at that and probably take that as seriously as we should. I know Councillor Payne did say that it's the 4th biggest issue out of 5. Monday nights I go to the Diamond Valley Civic Centre and I catch up with constituents right here in Polar Parkways. It's probably for the last 2 years almost. And Wednesday mornings, tomorrow morning, I'll be in at Plentiful Cafe and I'll catch up with residents there at Plenty. And on Friday nights I'm usually at Yarrambat. And it's hard to get messages out there all the time, but certainly I'm out there all the time. And what I'm hearing from constituents is that rates is a huge importance to them. Rather, you know, I did vote against putting the draft budget out there, and I just don't like the way the draft budget goes out there sometimes. Perhaps it could be made more accessible to people, or people could actually, such an important thing, should actually contribute more to it. But yeah, look, I will support it, as I mentioned, and be interesting to see this little bit of jargon going around about who's actually running again and stuff like that, and I quite understand that. But yeah, for who is ever running, I think obviously it starts here. But that's it.
Thank you, Councillor Stockman. Any other councillors? Councillor Perkins.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Ramshran, and certainly, yes, I will support the budget. And council has gone to the rate cap because council needs to go to the rate cap. You know, I have a view if the process was a bit easier, really council would consider going above what the current rate cap is, because the current rate cap is very, very restrictive on the services and capital works that council can provide to its community. There's a growing list of things that need to be done, and there's less and less money available to council, whether that be through rates or through grants via the state government or indeed federal government. So the list of things to do is very, very long, and without bringing rates in, it doesn't get any shorter. And you know, those priority projects on the very top of the list can't be achieved in the short term, and we just kick the can down the road for years and years and years. So, you know, it's a good budget, it's a responsible budget. It's proposing to put the rates up per property by 2.75%. Certainly, I think Councillor Egan has enunciated it well, that the overall rates for many people might exceed and will exceed that 2.75% because of the fire services levy. That's a tax from the state government that council has to, by legislation, collect on their behalf. Not 1 cent of that fire service levy goes to council. We are just a tax collector for the state government in that instance. The other big issue is the ever-increasing costs of the landfill levy. Again, it's another tax that is levied by the state government that council is forced to collect on their behalf. So councils, it's interesting that council is forced to abide by legislation by a rate cap, where this year we can only put rates up by 2.75%, but there is no such levy on things such as, there's no such cap on the state government charges where we collect money on their behalf. So it's smoke and mirrors in some extent, that, you know, council becomes the tax collector for the state government, and when the rates do go out, we don't actually know what the quantum of that fire service levy increase will be yet. We understand it might be in the order of 60%, but that will certainly have a huge impact on this rate bill and every rate bill moving forward. And I think people do have to try to understand where the money is going. It's not all going to council. And in the case of the fire service levy, it's apparently not all going to even fund the fire service levy, but that's probably an area that needs a bit more investigation or explanation, I would imagine. But yeah, happy to support the budget. It's good it's got support by the look of it. And congratulate Council for adopting this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. Any other councillors? Councillor Eyre.
I feel like I need to speak because everyone else has. Before I became a councillor, I used to think, oh my gosh, my rates. And like all the other councillors here, they go up. But also the cost of living and the cost of products, the cost of services. And I understand now that we also need to take that rate cap so that we can also be competitive in the works that we do, but also providing safe and accessible services. If we don't follow with the rate cap, we're not, I don't know how to explain this, meeting CPI adjustment as well. So we're not even close yet. So as much as I too don't like paying my rates, I live in the Green Wedge. I want the trees around. I want the environment that I live in. Therefore, I'm happy to pay high rates for the beautiful environment that I live in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. I believe that's everyone. It's everyone except for me. And now you're all going to sit and listen to me. We're not done yet. I'll take my 3 minutes. And I'm taking my 3 minutes because I am actually quite excited about the budget. There's been a lot of talk about rates. And look, just to set a few things straight on the rates, no councillor can cut or increase rates in their own area. I think Councillor Egan may have alluded to how possibly rates are going down in Diamond Creek. I don't know if that's entirely true and that Councillor Perkins's residents would be very pleased. I'm sure the residents of Diamond Creek are very happy, and I'm sure Councillor Perkins has had something to do with that. But he certainly hasn't got a magic wand to cut their rates. When we put the rates up, it's a percentage increase to the amount of rates that we collect, and that's distributed fairly across the Shire. What changes is the valuation of properties, and so as properties get revalued and the value goes up or the value goes down, that will change effectively the size of the slice of the pie that you pay, and all we control really is the size of the pie. We don't control how many slices, we don't control how big your slice is. That depends on the value of your property. And yes, as has been alluded to, most of the increases, unfortunately, the state government's levies, particularly the fire services levy, which has gone up by a far higher percentage than the rate cap. And it does seem very unfair that our rates are capped so stringently when the state government puts up other parts of the rate bill to a far higher extent than what we're able to, and collects that money for themselves, and it doesn't go back into the community in the way that council may be able to spend it. However, to talk to some of the more exciting sides of the budget, and I know I only have just over a minute left, we have funding for the Youth Hub. We have funding to complete our neighbourhood character and housing strategies and implement them into the planning scheme to protect what we love about where we live while also responsibly planning for future growth. For the second year in a row, we've got money for environmental volunteering initiatives, which means we will be expanding our environmental volunteering programs, something that so many people have been asking for such a long time. And we also have money for the incredibly valuable Forest Health Monitoring Program, which is volunteer-led, and that funding from Council goes towards collecting incredibly useful data around the biodiversity in many of our areas. We have, again, for the third year running, funding for the implementation of our Climate Action Plan. And so there's a lot in this budget to be excited about. There are other things that are not in there that do need more funding. And again, it comes down to the rate cap and the amount of money that we have to spend. That is roadsides, maintenance of our roadsides, particularly weeds, and reserves, same thing, weeds, enforcement of the planning scheme. And also next year, once we've finished our biodiversity, that will need significant funding as well. So that will be something for the next council to look at in terms of how they fund that. My time is up, so I will wrap up there, and I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. The next item is the Council Plan Quarterly Performance Report for Quarter 3, and I'll look for a motion. Councillor Perkins.
Thank you. I move that Council receives and notes the Council Plan Quarterly Performance Report, Attachment 1, for the third quarter of 23-24.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Duffy. Councillor Perkins.
The Council Plan Quarterly Performance Report provides the third update on delivery, progress and performance of the 2023-24 Annual Action Plan actions, which align to deliver the third year of the Council Plan, or our Council Plan, 2021 to 2025. Of the 37 actions in the 23-24 Annual Action Plan, 17 of those actions are reported quarterly, with the remaining actions reported on an annual basis in the final quarterly report for the financial year. So of the 17 actions reported quarterly, 1 action is completed, 17 actions are on track, 3 actions are experiencing minor issues, and 1 action is yet to commence. So the one that just jumps out that is an action yet to commence, the explanation for that, the action itself is in the sustainability area, and it is to deliver a roadmap regarding ESO principles into the planning scheme, subject to state government's implementing changes to the Victorian planning provisions and subsequent review of such charges. So that hasn't yet commenced, basically because we're waiting on the state government. So it's outside the control of council officers and council at this stage, and you know, effectively the action is still on hold, awaiting further state government advice and updates. The focus of the state government in this space has been on the recently released housing statement and affordable housing. So we really can't commence that one until we get further advice and you know, the state government finish their priority work at the moment and move on to these other areas. So, yep, commend the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. Councillor Duffy.
Yes, thank you. There's a lot that goes on every day at Council. This quarterly report is a snapshot of what's been happening, what was committed to, and I'd like to thank everybody that's had an involvement in delivering the outcomes to the community that have happened over the last quarter. Today, we're in Reconciliation Week, and I think one of the important things to note here is that we're working towards a reconciliation action plan to build on the efforts of the last 25 years that Council has been working with Wurundjeri and the First Nations people. That's one of the action items that's listed in the report, and the community have been able to give feedback recently on the Reconciliation Action Plan itself. So I'm really happy to see that here. Everyone can do roads, rates and rubbish, but for me, meaningful work towards reconciliation is really important. And so I am very pleased that Council is working in that space to do that in a meaningful way. Other things that have happened, last week we had the Youth Summit. Today there was the Health and Wellbeing Advisory Forum. All of these things are more or less business as usual, really. Like we had the economic action of a Women in Business networking meeting. I'm just really excited that in all of the different spaces that Council's involved in, whether it's libraries, maternal health, climate, biodiversity, we're hitting targets and really making sure that there are strong actions that are being achieved for the benefit of the community, for our people, our place, our environment and the wildlife that lives here. I'll leave it at that. We could talk a lot. This is a great report for those who might want to read it. But when it comes to the work of Council, I'd just say to everybody, have a look at what's happening, get involved, speak to your neighbours, speak to your community groups, speak to your sports clubs, speak to council officers and speak to councillors as to what you'd like to see if we aren't doing things to your satisfaction or there are actions that you'd like to have happen. There are plenty of ways for you to be able to get involved so that Council is aware of what you'd like to see happen. And please, when we go out to community engagement on all of the various items, it's really wonderful when we get a lot of people sharing their feedback. We know that you're interested and that we're able to navigate a good way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. The The next item is the 2024 annual community survey results, and I will look for a motion. Councillor Duffy.
Yes, I'm happy to move that. So the recommendation here is that council receives and notes the results of the 2024 annual community survey. That can be found in attachment 1 of the papers. And secondly, makes the report findings available to the public on council's website.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Perkins. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. The annual community survey results really show us the thoughts and feelings of the people who are surveyed. 500 people are contacted every year, a random group of 500 people. I know that's a small set when we've got something like, I think, 65,000 people living in the Shire of all different ages. I might be wrong with my number there, but this has been something that Council's been doing consistently for 13 years now. So you can't manage what you don't monitor, really. And so this is a way of us being able to, as Council, have a check to see how are we going on the things that we're doing. But with that said, these results that have come through, there are things that are really great in it. When you look at a score out of 10, Council's received 6.9, so that's almost 70% as an overall score. It's the second or the equal highest score that we've had since this survey commenced in 2011. So that's good that we're at the top end rather than falling down. But we're only ever as good as the service that we provide in the instant that somebody needs it. So whilst we can pat ourselves on the back and say, hey, Council's doing really well, the experience that people have is the experience that they have, and it could be good or it could be bad. So every day, Council needs to work to ensuring that the experience that I'm delivering in my role as a council officer or in my role as a councillor is the best that I can do. Because surveys, as we know, are just metrics that can be put on a shelf that we can tick ourselves and pat ourselves on the back with, but the day-to-day operation of are we responding to people in an adequate way is the way that we're going to be judged on whether we're doing a good job as a council or a not so good job. Because the 500 people that we survey are just 500 people. There are a lot of people that live in Nillumbik and a lot of people who haven't been asked their opinion on how they feel council's going. But if we use this as a base, the results are really good. And we can look at the top 5 most important things. People mentioned road maintenance and repairs as number 1, traffic management as number 2, parks, gardens and open space as number 3. We love our open space. We've heard from councillors tonight talking about living in the green wedge and loving our trees. One of the things that I hear of is that people are saying, please, Council, can you do more about the nature strips in our roads and on the sides of our streets? So parks, gardens and open space is number 3 in the top 5 most important issues in Nillumbik. Council rates comes in at number 4 and bushfire prevention comes in as number 5. I'll let people go through the report if you've got some time and you're wanting to have a read of that. There's information about libraries, sports ovals, the waste collection, education and learning services, animal management. There's so much that Council does. I actually don't know how many services Council provides. It would be, I'll come back to that. I'll try and find out, but I guess it's hundreds. So there is a lot to go through here. I won't speak any longer other than to say that I feel that the community is rating us high in terms of leadership on our climate change action, and the majority of residents that were surveyed came back with some feedback that's really something we can all be proud of. The majority of residents said that they've purchased green products to reduce the environment and environmental harm. They've personally picked up litter in the streets. They've visited bushland reserves and or they've planted trees or removed weeds and in our reserves and roadsides. So it's really demonstrating to me that the people in Nillumbik care where they live, and as a council, we care about what we do in helping to make this a great place. So I'd just like to say thank you to the team who works to put together the annual survey, and also to the Metropolis Research Company that conducts this on Council's behalf. Thank you to the 500 people that gave up their time to give us this feedback.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Perkins.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Ramcharan, and yeah, thank you, Councillor Duffy. Just like to echo many of your comments, and look, it is probably something that I look forward to every year, the full report of the survey. It's often very fascinating what's revealed. Some of the misconceptions, this year, obviously roads, there's a lot of dissatisfaction around roads and traffic management. I dare say most of those roads and traffic management issues don't relate to local or council-owned roads. They would be the ones we all know about that are state government roads, the Winding Mile, certainly in my area, Mainhurst Ridge Road. These are the ones that, Wattle Glen, Kangaroo Grand Road, these are the ones that consistently need, and on an increasing basis, seem to need more and more work in terms of potholes and all the rest of it. So certainly council receives a message. We do our best, as best we can, to send that message up through to the state government, those areas, Department of Transport, that are responsible for maintaining those roads, because we know that we don't have the rate base to fix state government infrastructure. And even if we did, I would say we still wouldn't, because we would be putting rates up unfairly to pay for infrastructure that we're not required to maintain, because they're not our assets. But this report, basically, it's been going 14 years. I've been going 15 years on council. As I said, I look forward to it every year, not just an election year, but each and every year, because you can see the trends, you can see what people are happy with and what people are unhappy with, and you can work out through that areas that you need to advocate for stronger, and it does change from year to year. Look, there'd be 100 graphs in here. It's just fantastic going through all of them. You don't have to go very far to get to the fourth graph on basically the third or fourth page into the report, and it's my favourite graph this year, and it graphs the satisfaction with the council's overall performance by precinct. So which parts of Nillumbik are most satisfied? And Diamond Creek is the most satisfied. So that graph is a ripper. It's on page 21 of 237. That one will be laminated for sure. The other one that jumps out to me, and it's a heat map of importance and satisfaction with community services, Nillumbik Shire Council, in the survey. So the most important and the most satisfied areas are areas like the library, children, youth, seniors. The least satisfied and least important are LGBTIQA needs. So that's just an example. Arts and culture, Metro isn't terribly high. So look, it's not my survey, it's a community survey, but it is worth
If you could wrap up there, Councillor
grounding
Perkins.
ourselves sometimes and looking at some of these issues. Thank you.
As exciting as it is. Any other councillors? Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Mayor Ratcharan. Yes, it's interesting to see that bushfire prevention has dropped down on the list as one of the top issues there. So it's interesting how some things have dropped. Rates were third on the list and have dropped to fourth this year. I think of the top issues, bushfire prevention is fifth. Well, it's not the top issue. I guess it's the point I'm trying to make, and that roads and traffic may be, but traffic is us. So as a council and as a community, we have to come to terms with the fact that people are using the roads, and we need to deal with the kind of increase in traffic and to be careful with the traffic in the area. I wanted to thank Jeremy and Craig and the team, the whole community team. I believe they did very well in terms of customer service and satisfaction. Rubbish and waste dropped to 12th place from 5th place over the year. And the relative satisfaction is interesting. It does show across the Shire that the newer and younger demographics have a higher level of satisfaction than the older demographics in Eltham. And also Eltham Library scored really, really high. So well done, everyone, for keeping that real community asset. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. The next item is seeking adoption of Council's governance rule election period policy. And it looks like Councillor Eyre wants to move that one.
I do. And I might actually go by the papers. Thank you.
As per the papers, I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Payne. Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just say governance, governance, governance. It's so important and therefore so is this policy. The election period policy outlines the requirements for councillors, candidates and council officers to ensure integrity and compliance before and during the election period, as well as in the immediate period following the election. Some notable changes include defining significant and delegated decisions and making clear prohibitions on any consultation during the election period. The section on social media has also been expanded to further clarify how council will manage the organisation's social media accounts. And additionally, further information is provided in relation to media and publicity and media releases during the time. The policy has been updated to incorporate provisions pertaining to council staff members who nominate as a candidate for election, strengthening the requirements related to election nominations. Key provisions relating to councillor conduct has also been included in the draft policy to reflect local government best practice. Other changes include clear language and definitions, which I think is important. There are many, so this policy is set to ensure integrity and compliance in the 2024 election, which is in October, for contesting councillors and other candidates. So there are many sessions that have been scheduled. Some of you may already know about them. So they're not just for Nillumbik, but right across Victoria, and are designed to give residents more information on what's involved in being a councillor. So consider attending a session and or putting your hand up to become a councillor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Councillor Payne. Any other councillors? I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. The next item is the Boyd Street North Warrandyte proposed special charge scheme. I'll state once again that I have a conflict of interest in relation to this item, and so I will be stepping out the room, and I vacate the chair and invite the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Egan, to take the chair from me. And just to state that is a material conflict of interest.
Could I please have a mover for the recommendation, Boyd Street North Warrandyte proposed special charge scheme? Councillor Payne.
Happy to move the motion as per the papers.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Perkins. Councillor Payne.
It seems fairly straightforward that they looked for a vote for the investigations into the special charge scheme for Boyd Street North Warrandyte. Having not reached 60%, they would recommend that we abandon further investigations.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Perkins. Any other councillors wish to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried. Can somebody please get the Mayor back in the chamber? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. That was quick. All right. And my chair's been put up. The next item is the Terms of Reference and Expression of Interest process for the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee 2024 to 2026, and I'll look for a motion.
Happy
Councillor
to
Payne.
move the motion. Thank you, Mayor Antran. The motion that Council 1 thanks and acknowledges the 9 outgoing members of the Arts and Cultural Advisory Committee 2022-24 for their advice and contribution to Council's work to represent the diverse views, ideas and needs of the community. 2, endorses the updated Arts and Cultural Advisory Committee Terms of Reference 2024-2026 as per Attachment 1. 3, endorses the recruitment process for the Arts and Cultural Advisory Committee 2024-2026 open on the 30th of May and to close on the 20th of June 2024. And 4, instructs officers to report nominations to the Arts and Cultural Advisory Committee to Council for endorsement in August 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Eyre. Councillor Payne.
Yes, I just wanted to thank the members of the Arts and Cultural Committee for the work that they do. Again, they're volunteers that put their time in to make sure that arts and cultural matters are kept in the forefront of the community and to advise us in how we should proceed, how grants should be applied for, and how different groups in the community can utilise the Arts and Culture Committee and the work that we do at Council. I thank the members of the committee, and many will be renominating, and I assume some will come back next time. So for those returning, thank you for your work, and for the new members that will come along, thank you for nominating.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Eyre.
Just quickly, yes, thank you to those who are outgoing and those who may continue. Doing a fantastic, you're doing fantastic work for arts in our community and supporting council with our policies. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. The next item is the Domestic Animal Management Plan Review, and I'll look for a motion. Councillor
I'm
Duffy.
happy to do that, thank you. The motion is that Council resolves to commence Phase 1 community consultation from the 3rd of June to the 14th of July. It's a 6-week period to support the development of Nillumbik Shire Council's draft Domestic Animal Management Plan for 2025 to 2029. This is in line with the attached Community Engagement Plan, which is attachment 2 in the papers.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Egan. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. Council has a legislated responsibility under the Domestic Animal Act of 1994 to ensure compliance and delivery of animal management services related to the community expectations around responsible pet ownership. So we call this the DAMP, the Domestic Animal Management Plan. We have one in place at the moment that's gone from 2021 to 2025. This plan that we have in place provides the strategic framework and the policy direction and action plan for council to work with the community on our domestic animal management practices. So people will know that in terms of local laws, being responsible with our pet ownership, things like the cat curfew, where you encourage people to bring their cats in at night so they're not out prowling, desexing and microchipping and registering their animals. There are different components about how many animals you can have, etc. There's a whole lot that kind of gets wrapped up in the Domestic Animal Management Plan. It forms one of many plans that Council has and many strategies in terms of being able to live in Nillumbik in the way that we want to live. So I would encourage people to take the time to put your feedback out. This is the next stage. Council is wanting to be able to hit the ball rolling. I don't know if I've said that right. We're wanting to make sure that the next... Hit the ground running. Thank you, Councillor Egan. To get started on the Domestic Animal Management Plan for the next iteration. So this will be something that will carry over into the next council term, but the community feedback can happen now. And I know that there are a lot of people that have strong opinions on this, and I would encourage everybody to have your say, whether you are a cat owner, a dog owner, or a horse owner, whether you don't have animals, whether you do, and whether you're able to say what the animals mean to you and how you'd like to live with animals in Nillumbik. I do hear a lot of comment about people wanting to have dogs on sports ovals, and I do know that there's been a big effort by the people in the Eltham North area to work proactively with the sporting clubs around the Eltham North Reserve and the Adventure Playground to ensure that they're respectfully using that space. There are some reserves, some ovals in our shire where dogs are not allowed. There are some that they are. There are. We have dog parks that have been introduced. There are local laws for trying to help keep people safe. It includes areas where dogs are on leash. So that's on our trails, etc., so that when you're riding a bike or you're walking or running, there's not collisions. So there are so many different areas with the domestic animal management plan. I just encourage people to get involved so that they can have their say, so that we can have the best and most appropriate plan moving forward when council officers are pulling this together. Because we live with animals. They give us a lot of joy. And for some people, animals are more important than people. So let's make sure that there's space for everybody to enjoy living with animals in Nillumbik. On that note, I will pass it back to the Mayor. So, people can read into this what they want, and other councillors might have an opportunity to say something.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Egan? Any other councillors? I'll speak to this one briefly. Look, I'm really pleased that we've been able to increase the consultation period to 6 weeks. Gives people plenty of opportunity to have their say, and there is a lot to say around a domestic animal management plan. It really does affect all of us, whether you have a pet or not, and I think the majority of residents in our shire do have a pet. I have 2 cats myself, but even if you don't have a pet, the way that people manage their pets and the way that council is able to encourage responsible pet ownership actually has an impact on all of us, because when people don't own their pets responsibly, that can have a huge impact. So that's what this plan is about. It's about responsible pet ownership and supporting pet owners to take care of their animals the best they can. It'll obviously be the next council that puts this new strategy together and endorses it, but it's us who are kicking off the consultation period. I think one thing to note that I found really interesting in the previous consultation, it was similar to this. It was a very thorough consultation before we put the plan together. We saw over 60% of respondents in favour of a 24-hour cat curfew. Currently, we have a cat curfew from dusk to dawn in Nillumbik, so that's overnight. 60% of respondents were in favour of increasing that to 24 hours. This council made the decision 3 years ago not to pursue that, but I'll be very interested to see what the community says in this round of consultation, and looking forward to hearing what people have to say on that. So please, make your opinion known. It's really important during this round of consultation. And we will, the next council will consider that based on the input that we get from the community. So looking forward to seeing what comes out of this consultation, and glad that we're able to do this and give people 6 weeks to have their say on what is a very important issue. Thank you. And with that, I will put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. The next item is the Yalna Court Special Charge Scheme Declaration, and I will look for a motion.
Happy to move the motion as per the papers.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Perkins. Councillor Payne.
Yes, just to thank the residents of Yalna Court, both residents who have agreed to this special charge scheme. The vote went from 50% to 100% instantly, with two people voting for that. Yes, this just shows that when people get together in the community, they can make things happen. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Perkins. Any other councillors? Well, look, it's not often that we see 100% in favour of a special charge scheme, so I think that makes this a very, very easy decision for us. And I will put that to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. The next item is the instrument of appointment and authorisation under the Planning Environment Act 1987, and I will look for a motion. Councillor Perkins.
Thank you. I move the motion as per the papers.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. Seconded, Councillor Egan. Councillor Perkins.
Just quickly, it is to amend the instrument of appointment and authorisation under the Planning and Environment Act. There's been a couple of staff changes. So in the attachment, there is all the names of the officers as per the instrument. So it says in the instrument, officers means, and there's a list of all the officers who basically work under the Planning and Environment Act, or an officer under the Planning and Environment Act 1987. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. Any other councillors? I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. And our next item is informal meetings of councillors' records for the 28th of May 2024. I'll look for a motion. Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mayor. The Council, in accordance with item 20 of Council's Governance Rule, meeting procedures, receives the informal meetings of councillor records in attachment 1 for meetings held.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Duffy. Councillor Eyre.
No, thank you.
Councillor Duffy. Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. That is the end of the officers' reports. We do have one notice of motion from Councillor Duffy. So, Councillor Duffy, would you like to move that one?
Yes, thank you. The motion is that Council notes the concerns and communication received regarding pedestrian safety around supervised school crossing sites, particularly at the supervised school crossing on Wattle Tree Road, Eltham North, near Eltham North Primary School, where a near-miss incident occurred. A recent near-miss incident occurred. Secondly, request council officers to provide a report to council regarding pedestrian safety and traffic safety in the vicinity around Eltham North Primary School, with consideration given to any recommendations for improvement that council can undertake or could advocate for with the Victorian Government's Department of Transport and the Federal Government's Black Spot program, including A, the urgent extension of traffic bumpers in front of the wire fencing at the Wattle Tree Road traffic lights, B, possible traffic calming measures, C, signage treatments, including southbound from Banks Road, and D, assessing traffic and pedestrian flows around Lower Road. Lastly, the third part of this motion is requesting that council requests the CEO to write to the principal of Eltham North Primary School as a matter of urgency to seek input from the school and school community to help in getting students to and from school safely.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. I will look for a seconder. Councillor Eyre. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I put this notice of motion forward regarding pedestrian and traffic safety around Eltham North Primary School in an effort to improve safety for students and families, teachers and the general public in this vicinity as a priority, and all schools in Nillumbik more generally. We've just noticed the budget's been passed and there was money in the budget, I think it's about $500,000, if I'm not wrong, from memory, that goes into crossing supervisors. Might have to go back and check the numbers on that. Sorry, I shouldn't have ad-libbed there. Eltham North Primary School celebrated 100 years of learning last week on the 23rd of May. It was a joyful occasion to be present at the birthday celebrations, along with students, teachers and parents past and present. Eltham North Primary School's main entrance is off Wattle Tree Road, with another entry off Lower Road and Short Road. Wattle Tree Road is a busy stretch and the main thoroughfare from the northern suburbs like Yarrambat, Plenty, St Helena and Diamond Creek through to Eltham and over the Yarra River to other parts of Melbourne. The 70-kilometre speed has recently been reduced, so all sections of Wattle Tree Road are now 60 kilometres per hour, except for the 40 kilometres per hour limit during school times outside Eltham North Primary School. Patrick has been the crossing supervisor at Eltham North Primary School at the Wattle Tree Road traffic lights, guiding students and families in the morning and afternoon for the past 6 years. On the 17th of April this year, a car failed to stop at the red traffic lights and drove through the crossing when Patrick was on the crossing escorting children. His quick instinct took over and he was able to avoid a catastrophe for those on the crossing. Patrick acted bravely and swiftly, with the protection of kids his absolute focus. Patrick has told me that this was his 12th occasion in 6 years of a near miss. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Patrick for his actions that day and to thank all our school crossing supervisors for what they do every day at every school that they attend. The principal of Eltham North Primary School has raised concerns with me that I've relayed onto council officers both before I became a councillor, when in the capacity of the Parents and Friends President for the school, and more so since as the councillor for Edendale Ward. Advocating for road and pedestrian safety, particularly in relation to Eltham North Primary School, is something that I've been doing for many years, and today I seek the support of all councillors with this motion, which calls for council to note the concerns and communication received regarding pedestrian safety at this supervised crossing site and others, and particularly here at Wattle Tree Road in Eltham North. The motion, as you've heard, calls for officers to provide a report to council regarding pedestrian and traffic around Eltham North Primary School, with consideration to any recommendations for improvement that council can undertake ourselves, or things that we can advocate for with the state and federal government. So I did list in the notice of motion when I read it out the 4 main highlights here. So there's urgent extension of bumpers in front of the wire fencing. The principal has been calling on that for many years. Possible traffic calming measures like a raised crossing, alerts on the bitumen, signage treatment, including southbound from Banks Road, just to alert people that there's a school just around the corner. Assessing traffic and pedestrian flows around Lower Road. Like, this might see the need for a keep clear marking on Wattle Tree Road where Shorts Road intersects. It might identify measures to modify the risky behaviour taken by some drivers on Wattle Tree Road who actually drive on the wrong side of the road to pass around traffic that's banked up turning left into Lower Road, or when traffic is turning right into Lower Road from Wattle Tree Road. It might see an extension to Lower Road, the drop-off zone that happens every morning for parents that are dropping their kids off. You know, and it's great to be able to have this motion, but the action comes from the community being involved with officers. And so the last point of this motion was asking the CEO to write to the principal with urgency to get feedback from the school and the school community and from the teachers themselves. So a few years back, you know, a large semi-trailer truck was travelling erratically at speed. It was a lunchtime. It went through the Wattle Tree Road crossing on the wrong side of the road. It caused a serious car accident. Luckily, no pedestrians were involved. And what I will do is leave the recommendations to the experts. But I do welcome all those with lived experience of walking, riding and driving to Eltham North Primary School to have your say when feedback is requested. This motion aims to ensure that council prioritises a coordinated approach on local, state and federal government, and that we can all work together to deliver the best possible outcomes for our community. There are many things that council has done during this term around Eltham North Primary School, which I commend and am grateful for, including the goat track footpath around the adventure playground, some extra fencing, and importantly, a second crossing supervisor. I just wrap up by saying thank you to Andrew Conquest for reaching out to me and offering suggestions like an overpass, and writing to council and asking for us to help see a solution to this community concern.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that, Councillor Duffy. I support what you have been saying to support your notice of motion. I'd also like to add that Wattle Tree Road, Lower Road and Short Road in the precinct around Eltham North Primary School has seen traffic congestion and safety issues for many, many years. Car drivers, especially during school drop-off and pick-up time, can get very impatient as cars are banked back along the road. This can mean that the pedestrian crossing can see cars trying to jump through as the lights turn amber, which is not a safe practice. I'm interested to know, though, if the updated intersection up near St Helena Secondary on the corners of Ryans Road and Wattle Tree Road will actually help with some of that congestion and mean that cars aren't banked back as far from that intersection all the way down to the primary school as well. This is an important issue. We're talking about primary school aged children here as well, not always 100% concentrating on where they're going, although I assume that they're crossing the pedestrian crossing properly, but not necessarily looking around the broader scope to see if a car's coming a little bit too fast or not. So I'm supportive of this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillors? Councillor Perkins.
Yeah, look, happy to support the motion. I'll just sort of state that I did have an approach from a resident too of Alpha North Zigzag Road that was concerned about this pedestrian crossing, noting it's a signalised pedestrian crossing with supervisors, the highest level of protection that we have in Nillumbik for any school crossing, really. And the request was around doing a pedestrian overpass. You know, once I explained that this is a state government road and it's certainly not within the realm of council to be able to implement that sort of treatment, I think he understood that it's really advocacy towards the state government is our best approach. And I think, you know, the officer's advocacy and council's advocacy, in speaking to lots of Vicky Ward, we can all take that up. But I think the other thing that really needs to be highlighted is the actions of that one driver or any driver that aren't travelling at 40 kilometres an hour in a school zone during school times, or even worse, go through a red light and almost run over kids or a school crossing supervisor with kids on the crossing. It's amazing that sort of thing can happen, and it's very much a criminal event. And I think it's really, really important for everybody to keep their eyes peeled. If such a thing happens, as shocking as it is, you know, we get their number plate and we report that to police, because I've no doubt that they will prosecute that to the nth degree. And if someone had been injured, it would be jail time. It would be go to jail. Do not pass go, because that's probably one of the worst things that can happen in our community, where people are driving so erratically that they run a child down on a pedestrian crossing, going through a red light, you know, almost hitting a school crossing supervisor and kids on the crossing. In a lot of ways, there's not much more that anybody can do when there's idiots like that out on the road. So I think, you know, there's infrastructure improvements that can always be made, but you can't legislate against people who don't care about their community or drive in such a manner that put others at risk. So I think, you know, it's a two-handed approach. It's just not about what council can do to fix up infrastructure or improve infrastructure or spend, you know, many millions of dollars on, say, an overpass that the local community may not want at the end of the day anyway, because it would dominate the landscape. It's also about that broad and general awareness of highlighting amongst community where the school crossings are, you know, and really the repercussions for anybody who runs a child down or runs anyone down on a school crossing. I know we've always had issues around the school crossing in Diamond Creek, in Gibson Street there, but, you know, the thing that's not spoken about enough is just the repercussions for all, including the driver, if an accident does happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. Any other councillors? Councillor Egan.
Thank you. Yes, I hear Councillor Eyre, Councillor Perkins and Councillor Duffy's comments, and I'm really conflicted with this for a couple of reasons. We already have some work going on in the planning department with all schools. The other reason is, in my ward alone, Hurstridge, we've already had kids hit on crossings and there haven't been prosecutions. We've got a quadriplegic now in Hurstbridge who was hit on that crossing. We still haven't had anything done there. My own daughter, back in my first term of council, was hit in the Mayor's crossing at Kangaroo Ground, and the crossing supervisors there has been hit twice. Still nothing has been done. So I will support this, but I want work to continue in all of the wards, in all of the school crossings, not just Eltham North. Words fail me sometimes, but we've already had kids and people hit on other crossings and still nothing's done. I pleaded with Vic Roads, as it was then, back, I think, in 2017 when my daughter was hit, to have something done. Still nothing has happened in Kangaroo Ground. And that's an 80-kilometre road that all of a sudden just comes to a traffic control. I think it goes to 40 at school times. Still nothing. We haven't even got zebra crossing lights there. So you've at least got those there, Councillor Duffy. I will support this because I have to support kids, as I have 5 of my own, and as I said, my own daughter's been hit. But we need something Shire-wide. We need something on all of the school crossings. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Any other councillors? Councillor Payne.
Yes, I don't want this to be a contest to see who was most affected by this. I'm well aware of the crossing itself. I lived beside Eltham North Primary School, and my kids went there for for a couple of years. And increased traffic's always been an issue in Wattle Tree Road. This is a Vic Roads road, as Councillor Perkins pointed out. So this is about advocacy for road safety, especially at school start and finish times. The community constantly saying to us, do something about traffic. Lowering speeds, increasing speed bumps, road signage. This is about community and driver awareness. As cars and utes get bigger, there is a higher risk. And recently they published the top 10 vehicles sold in Australia, and not one was a sedan. They were all oversized utes or SUVs. So as our vehicles change, we need to change and improve our driving habits as well.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Any other councillors? I'll speak to this one as well. Look, I was hesitant to support this, I think a lot like Councillor Egan, because I am aware of the impact that it'll have on the workload of the traffic and transport team, who do a wonderful job. But I will support the motion, because I do think that the safety of children around schools is paramount. And look, this is work that's already being done. It's being done not just for Eltham North Primary, so don't worry if you at one of the other schools out there in the Shire. We are doing this for all of our schools. The traffic and transport team are doing thorough safety assessments around each school. And unfortunately, a lot of that will need to be done with Department of Transport and Planning. We can't do it on our own. They manage a lot of that road infrastructure. They will have to make a lot of the decisions. All we can do is advocate, but we are doing our best to make assessments and wherever we can, make safety improvements around schools. And so this notice of motion here will become part of that project. And so and so that way I'm satisfied that it's not adding too much workload to the traffic and transport team and taking away from the already important work that they're doing. I think what it does is it supports and enhances the important work that they're doing around schools. And so I'm happy to support this notice of motion. I don't expect the report to come anytime soon. These things take time, and I'm not going to preempt any of the outcomes or recommendations that might come out of that report. Leave it to the experts to make those decisions. And to be honest, it probably will be the next group of councillors who receive that and have the opportunity to act on it. But I think we can all be proud that we're on the council that kick-started this process, not just for Eltham North Primary, but for all the schools out there, so that all of our kids can get to school safely, which I think we can all agree is absolutely critical. And as a council, it is something that we need to work towards. All right, so I will put that one to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Well, there are no supplementary reports, no delegates' reports, and no confidential or urgent business. And so I will close the meeting at 8:39 p.m. Thank you, everyone.